We are not creeping towards an authoritarian takeover from Donald Trump's administration because we're already in it. This is not the boiling frog analogy where the heat is slowly being turned up. We are boiling. Things are on fire. Everyone can see it, including Donald Trump's closest former allies in the MAGA media. And that is exactly what we just saw from Joe Rogan, of all people, not just calling out the takeover happening right now, but the election fraud lies pushed by Donald Trump that we are going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we can get into how Trump is freaking out over Rogan's call out, I want to start with someone who has been beating the drum on this more than anyone else, and that's Governor Gavin Newsom telling us to wake up.
That's how strongly I feel about this moment, and I think millions, hundreds of millions of Americans feel the same. We take Donald Trump seriously when he talks about the 2028 election. I mentioned to my friends a moment ago that I got a hat, a Trump 2028 hat, from one of Donald Trump's biggest supporters, one of his biggest and most influential supporters. They're not screwing around. We cannot afford to screw around either. We have got to fight fire with fire. And I'll close on that point. What more evidence do you need in the state of California in the last just 6 months? Warrantless raids all across this state, threatening to condition disaster aid on the basis of politics, not on the basis of principles and the needs of people. We've seen these illegal tariffs take shape and impact this state disproportionately more than any other state. All of this is on the line. And so that's why we're here drawing not just new lines, but standing firm and trying to hold the line on democracy, our freedoms, our liberties, things that we can no longer take for granted. So
I am so glad that we have a Democrat saying this. I am so glad we have a Democrat not just saying this, but acting on it. It is not enough to deliver the strongly worded letter saying that Donald Trump is engaged in authoritarian behavior, that Donald Trump is not just a wannabe dictator, he's acting like a dictator. You have to step up and do something about it and make it clear to the mainstream media that they are failing if they don't actually and accurately cover what is happening. That's what J.B. Pritzker said yesterday, and it's very important to what Rogan eventually called out.
If this was really about fighting crime and making the streets safe, what possible justification could the White House have for planning such an exceptional action without any conversations or consultations with the governor, the mayor, or the police? Let me answer that question. This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals. This is about the President of the United States and his complicit lackey, Stephen Miller, searching for ways to lay the groundwork to circumvent our democracy, militarize our cities, and end elections.
Donald Trump wants to end elections. It is another example of how every MAGA accusation is actually an admission of the truth about themselves. They want to say that Democrats are stealing ballots or shipping in the illegals to run up the tallies and swing districts, but that's just not the case. Donald Trump wants to intimidate you out of voting. Donald Trump wants to burn your mail-in ballot. Donald Trump wants to strip you of your rights and scare you. He's saying it himself right here.
But then he goes on television and says, oh, Trump is a dictator, he's a dictator. And a lot of people are so the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, you know, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator, I just know how to stop crime.
Of course, it's that he's making everyone feel so safe that people want Donald Trump to be a dictator, not that Donald Trump is scaring the media, big institutions on Wall Street, colleges, CEOs into letting him become a dictator. That is what's happening right now. And we need people calling it out to stop it. And surprisingly, Joe Rogan called out Donald Trump for his election lies, for the fraud claims that he tries to push, that he's going to try to push to steal the upcoming midterms. And I want to take a look. Joe Rogan roasts Trump for failing to defend election fraud claims during marathon interview. Joe Rogan roasted Donald Trump for failing to back up his election fraud claims with actual evidence during their marathon interview. Libertarian comedian Dave Smith joined the Joe Rogan Experience this week, where he railed against Trump and his administration on a number of topics, including the war between Russia and Ukraine, and even his 2020 presidential election fraud claims, as we can see right here.
So I agree with all of that. I'm just saying, like, once you've made these statements and your administration is in.
Answer.
No, I remember. It was one of the most interesting parts of your podcast with him was like when you asked him about that, it was like he really didn't have anything to back it up.
If that was you or if that was me, I mean, if there was some reason why I knew that they did something and I could give you all the facts, I would have that ready for anybody. Because for 4 fucking years, they've been telling him he's crazy for questioning the election.
Yeah.
So after 4 years, I'd have a fucking tight 10 minutes on the election where I could just rattle off at you and rock your world with it. Like these are the facts, Jack.
It is truly just embarrassing that these guys fell for it, and now they're acting like, oh, well, you know, I was kind of just, you know, I wanted to listen. I wanted to hear both sides. You are an adult. These guys infantilize themselves so much and pretend like they're children without access to resources to explain the world to themselves, right? Like that's what you hear after guys like Nelk, those bro podcasters, had on Bibi Netanyahu, a war criminal, and got rightfully torn to shreds for it afterwards. And they said, well, you know, we're going to do some research and we're going to look into it. We're going to learn more about the guy. It's like, maybe did you think, you morons, for 1 second doing that before? It's the same thing with Rogan. You don't get to turn around after you've screwed up and influenced tens of millions of people and say, man, I called the wrong one there, and act like your platform is just something that you bumped into and can't be held accountable for. I'm glad that Joe Rogan is saying something now. It's good to hear. It's good for him to realize that Trump was bullshitting to him. But dude, where was that before? Where was any level of critical thought? Do you not understand the impact of the platform that you have? Well, clearly they don't. Clearly they don't care. Clearly they don't understand. I know they're waking up to it a little bit more, but we need some more waking up because Donald Trump is going after it all. And it's not just the people that you don't like anymore. And it's not just that you get to say the weird words and slurs and whatever. No, he's screwing up your life in every way. Doesn't matter if you're shit rich. Donald Trump is impacting our economy with his latest move, which hasn't been covered nearly enough. But Rachel Maddow broke it down. I think it's really important. I'd like you to take a look.
So we got some breaking news just as we were coming on the air tonight. President Trump is purporting to have fired a member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. Her name is Lisa Cook. She's been a Fed governor since 2022. She's the first black woman to serve on the Fed board in its 111-year history. And in that entire 111-year history, no member of the Fed's board has ever been fired by any president. And that's not because presidents haven't wanted to do it. It's because a president is not legally allowed to fire members of the Fed board just because he feels like it. The Federal Reserve Board is an independent body charged with setting monetary policy for the United States. It was created to be independent precisely so presidents could not monkey around with stuff like interest rates. Trump has been threatening for months to fire the head of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, because Trump publicly insists simultaneously that even though the American economy is totally awesome and the hottest it's ever been, somehow also Jerome Powell is responsible for how terrible the economy is, or something. It's been a little hard to follow. In recent days, Trump has turned his ire toward Powell's colleague, Lisa Cook, claiming that his administration has uncovered some kind of evidence that she committed mortgage fraud. Ms. Cook has not been charged with any wrongdoing. She has certainly not been convicted of anything. But tonight, in a letter to Lisa Cook that he posted online, Trump says he's firing her because of the unproven fraud accusations his administration has produced against her. We have no evidence that Trump's accusations are true. But even if President Trump harbors doubts about her rectitude or whatever, it's not at all clear that he has the legal authority to fire her on that basis. Like I said, no president has ever fired a member of the Fed board before Trump has announced that he intends to do or is proclaiming himself to have done so tonight. In a column tonight, titled in response to this breaking news this evening, Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman writes this: "We are all Lisa Cook." He says, quote, "The message here clearly isn't don't commit fraud," which would be laughable coming from Donald Trump of all people, nor, despite what some commentators have said, is it all about revenge, although Trump is indeed a remarkably vindictive person. Mainly, Krugman says, quote, "It's about intimidation. If you get in our way, we will ruin your life." Joining us now is Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman, who joins us on very short notice tonight. Mr. Krugman, it's nice to see you. Thanks very much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me on, though not a great occasion.
No. How serious is this, especially for those of us who aren't economists, who maybe follow a little bit what's going on in the market, but don't know the ins and outs of monetary policy and what the independence of the Fed really means? How much of an alarm bell should this set off for regular Americans just learning about this tonight?
This is a 5-alarm fire, because it's not just about Lisa Cook. It's clearly, as I said on my Substack, this is about intimidation. This is saying, it's a message not just, he's not just that he claims he's firing Lisa Cook, although he doesn't. We're not clear that he has the right to do that, but it's a message to everybody else on the Fed's board, and basically to government officials of any kind that get in our way. Don't act as an obedient minion of Donald Trump, and we will ruin you. We will destroy you.
This is where I think it might start falling apart for Donald Trump. Once he starts touching the money, once he starts really messing with the money. Because we saw after Trump's ICE raids, California, really across the country, hotel industry, hospitality at large, got a bunch of calls from a bunch of CEOs, a bunch of business owners, a bunch of rich buddies saying, "You gotta cut this out. You gotta stop it." And he fell in line. Because ultimately, Trump will do what the rich people want him to do. And if he's screwing with the economy at this level, like an irrecoverable level, because Trump can say, "Oh, we're going to do the tariffs off and on and off and on." I'm sure he can break down our relationships. But the strength of the dollar, that is difficult to recover, even with a Democratic president in 2028. Donald Trump is doing some real long-term damage, and hopefully people wake up. Hopefully. We're going to keep trying to get them to. I'm going to be loud as hell. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. I hope you're having a good day. This one has been long. Thank you for spending it with me. And until next time, I'll see you soon.